Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Horror Mine. My name is still Vikshai, and this is the Scare Score, where I break down horror movies and rate them on how scary I think they are. In this episode, I'll be going over the 2012 American horror film, Insidious. As always, I'll be going over the events that take place throughout the film while rating the scares on how scary they are or attempt to be. Before we begin, let's talk about the big elephant in the room. Raid Chef. Just kidding. I've been gone for quite a long time and it was a pretty unexpected absence. I realized at the beginning of the year that I needed to take some time to myself and figure some stuff out in my life. It took a lot longer than I expected, and while things aren't perfect now, they're getting better. I feel more motivated than ever to get back into making videos. I just want to thank y'all for sticking around and continuing to support the channel even with no new content. It means the world to me, and I truly believe that I am blessed with the best community on YouTube. So thank y'all again from the bottom of my heart. Insidious is one of the better modern horror films and one of my favorite James Wan film. But how scary is it? Sit back and relax and join me as we explore Insidious and tally up the scare score. Our movie begins with one of my favorite horror movie openings ever. The opening credits appear on screen accompanied by some creepy music. We see a young boy in bed fast asleep as the camera makes its way across the dark house. The music intensifies as a shadow can be seen moving behind a window. A creepy looking ghostly woman is seen in the dark holding a candle before the title appears on screen. The opening credits continue with black and white shots of a haunted house accompanied by eerie music. Furniture is seen moving on its own, and the occasional shadows make this intro pretty unsettling. An overall very good opening scene and credits that does a great job in setting us up for what's to come. We are introduced to our main characters, husband and wife Josh and Renee Lambert, portrayed by Rose Byrne and Patrick Wilson. The couple have just moved into a new house with their kids Dalton, Foster, and baby girl Callie. Renee goes through a photo album with Dalton and she says that there aren't any photos of Josh as a kid, or any of me with my dad. While making breakfast, Renee notices the books she just put on the shelf earlier now on the ground. The kids go to school and Josh goes to work, leaving Renee home alone with the baby. While working on her music, she hears Callie crying over the baby monitor. She hears a strange creaking noise coming from the attic and goes up to investigate. She breaks a step on the ladder trying to turn on the light, and the furnace turns on in a semi-jump scare. This is the typical, subtle creepy things are starting to happen but not really scary scene. Josh comes home and Renee can't seem to find her box of sheet music. Dalton is playing alone upstairs and is lured into the attic by the creaking door opening on its own cliche. He makes his way into the attic and tries turning on the light. He climbs onto the ladder and realizes that red capes don't actually help you fly and falls to the ground. As his parents are neglecting him downstairs, Dalton gets some much needed attention from an unknown entity in the dark. His scream gets his parents' attention and Renee finds her box of sheet music. They tuck Dalton into bed and Josh tells him to be more careful.
Hey, maybe a superhero, buddy, but you're not in...
That night, an unseen entity is felt watching Dalton sleeping. The next morning, Josh goes to wake him up, but just like the hundreds of comments asking Horror Mine to come back, it's not working. The doctor says that he is in a coma, which is the excuse I'll use for being gone for so long. 3 months later, Dalton is still in a coma and is being cared for at home. Renee struggles to focus on her music and hears someone eerily whisper, "There's nothing you can do on the baby monitor." She rushes into Callie's room and the voice disappears. This was a brief but good scare. The tension was built really well and the voice of the entity sounded really disturbing. Renee learns from Foster that Dalton is sleepwalking at night. Later that night, he shuts the door to his room and hears noise coming from Dalton's. Renee tries telling Josh about the baby monitor incident when they hear a loud knock at the front door. Callie starts crying and Renee sees a ghostly figure standing over the crib, giving us a little jump scare. The figure is gone as soon as Josh comes in and he finds the front door wide open. The alarm goes off again, but Josh doesn't find anything in the house. A decent scare scene that shows the ghostly activity starting to ramp up. Josh is a school teacher and calls Renee to tell her he's coming home late. We get a nice little reference to previous James Wan work, with Billy the puppet from Saw drawn on the board behind him. While caring for Dalton, Renee finds a bloody handprint on his sheets. Josh comes home and Renee believes the house is haunted and feels she is dealing with their situation alone. That night, Josh finds himself sleeping on the couch and things are about to ramp up. Renee wakes up from a nightmare and doesn't initially notice someone walking past her window. Josh comes running in, but the spirit disappears. Renee pleads with him to leave the house, and the family move into a new house. Again, this was a good scare scene with an effective jump scare. I wasn't expecting the spirit to just appear in the bedroom like that. We are introduced to Josh's mom, Lorraine, who is surprised Josh actually took a photo. Renee is cleaning around the new house and doesn't notice the boy hiding in the corner. Tiny Tim's Tiptoe Through the Tulips plays on the record player, and Renee sees the little boy dancing in the house. She follows the boy into Dalton's room, and he pops out of the closet before running out. This is an excellent scare scene. What makes this scare so effective is that it's happening in broad daylight. The atmosphere is also very well crafted thanks to the Tiny Tim song. Tiptoe by the window. Josh comes home and finds Renee speaking with a priest. She tells him about what happened and believes the spirits followed them into the new house. Lorraine believes her and tells them of a dream she had last night. She describes being in their house at night and seeing an entity standing in the corner of Dalton's room. The entity told her it wants Dalton and suddenly appears behind Josh in an amazing jump scare. What makes this jump scare so great is that it's totally unexpected and again takes place in broad daylight. They hear a loud noise coming from Dalton's room and find it completely destroyed. Dalton is laying on the floor and bloody handprints can be seen on his sheets. Lorraine says she knows someone who can help, and we are introduced to two new characters, Tucker and Specs, played by Leigh Whannell. Tucker and Specs are the assistants of a woman named Elise who sent them to do some recon of the house. They are the comedic relief characters of the film, but I don't really find them funny. Tucker walks around the house taking pictures with a special camera, which leads to a predictable but solid jump scare as two twin girls suddenly appear. Elise finally arrives and is portrayed by horror actress legend Lynn Shay. They go into Dalton's room and Elise immediately feels a sinister presence in the corner of the ceiling. She describes the entity to Specs, who draws it on a notebook. Elise explains that it's not their house that's haunted, but Dalton himself. She says that Dalton has the ability to astral project by leaving his physical body and travel to different planes, but it seems like he traveled a little too far into a place called the Further. She describes the Further as a dark realm filled with the tortured souls of the dead and fiction. She says the spirits Renee has been seeing have been trying to get inside Dalton's empty physical body to live again. However, the main red-faced demon wants Dalton's body to cause pain to others. Josh doesn't believe what Elise is saying and kicks her out of the house. While speaking to Dalton, a picture of the red-faced demon falls off the wall. He looks at all of Dalton's drawings and realizes that Elise may be right. They call Elise back and attempt to make contact with Dalton's spirit in the Further. Elise puts on a gas mask that looks absolutely ridiculous, and Specs is in charge of transcribing everything she says. She briefly makes contact with Dalton and tells him to follow her voice. Dalton says if they hear me, the man with the fire on his face will hurt him. Dalton says they heard Elise and starts asking for help. Elise makes contact with the red-faced demon and he starts saying a bunch of no-no words for YouTube. Elise screams right into Specs' ears and passes out. Dalton suddenly appears at the table and starts wreaking havoc. Everyone gets thrown around as the spirits that have been haunting Dalton all make an appearance. Things get extremely chaotic, especially because the lights are flashing and Renee is screaming the entire time. Elise grabs a hold of Dalton and commands the spirits to leave his body. Tucker and Specs look at the footage and see that the red-faced demon was controlling him the entire time. Elise calls Lorraine to tell Josh that he also used to astral project as a kid. Josh is the boy we saw in the intro and was terrified of the creepy old woman we saw in the beginning. The old woman began appearing behind Josh in multiple photos and got closer and closer to him each time. She contacted Elise, who was able to suppress his memory and ability to astral project. This is the reason Josh has been afraid of taking photos. Josh is the only one who can rescue Dalton by going into the Further himself. Elise hypnotizes him to sleep and Josh suddenly finds himself in the dark realm. Hey Josh, while you're looking for your son, can you also help me find my dad? Josh wanders the Further and finds his younger self, who points to their previous house. He enters the house and we get an effective jump scare as a ghostly bride walks past him and goes upstairs. He finds a woman crying in the corner of a room, but she quickly disappears. He is drawn downstairs by the creepy sound of someone whistling and sees a family eerily still in the living room. The family is shot by one of the twins we saw earlier, sporting a really creepy smile on her face. Josh heads into the attic and sees a bright red door just like the one in Dalton's drawing. The spirit with the leather jacket shows up and starts fighting him. The fight ends very quickly as Josh literally just shoves the spirit off screen. He goes into the red door and finds Dalton chained in the red-faced demon's lair. Tiptoe Through the Tulips starts to play and we see the demon sharpening his claws. He then stares right at them from the window before appearing right next to Josh. The demon tosses him around a bit before Josh grabs Dalton and runs. Josh tries to escape the further and gets surrounded by numerous spirits. The entire house starts to shake and Renee calls out to Josh. The lights suddenly go out and Tucker and Specs go looking around with flashlights. A ghostly hand grabs Specs and Elise tells them to go check on Dalton. The house becomes filled with spirits as Josh tries making his way back to the world of the living. They make it back to the house, but Josh suddenly stops in the kitchen and Dalton is chased by the red-faced demon. Josh is confronted by the old lady, who I think looks way scarier than the red-faced demon. Josh yells at the old lady to leave him alone and suddenly wakes up along with Dalton. The entire scene in the further is a mixed bag when it comes to scares. The atmosphere is initially very creepy. I really like the look and feel of the further when Josh first steps in it. It feels like he's walking through a haunted attraction, which I love. But things sort of get goofy and less scary when Josh starts fist fighting with the ghosts and demons. It kind of loses steam towards the end, but it's still an enjoyable scare scene overall. Josh has a conversation with Elise before handing her his haunted childhood photos. Elise looks at Josh with a grim look on her face before snapping a photo of him. Josh becomes enraged and chokes Elise to death. Renee walks in and finds Elise dead in the chair. She finds Elise's camera, which reveals that Josh is now possessed by the old woman's spirit. We get one final jump scare before Josh puts his hands on Renee's shoulder and says he's right here. Renee turns around and gasps in fear as the movie ends. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was Insidious. My friends, this was a really enjoyable film and a great choice for the return of the scare score. This is one of James Wan's best horror films and I consider it a modern horror classic. It's a basic premise that's executed well with plenty of scares throughout. However, it's not as scary as I remember it, and the film relies heavily on jump scares and obnoxiously loud violin and piano sound effects. I think the film sort of loses its scare factor towards the end, which also felt a little rushed, earning Insidious a mid-scare score of 55%. The audience scare score tallied up by channel members is 68%. The scariest scene in the film has got to be the red-faced demon jump scare. It's set up so well because of how unexpected it is. It also happens in broad daylight and it's one of the most memorable jump scares in horror. I want to give a big thanks to our Golden Kayako Club members and the rest of our channel members, especially for continuing to support the channel while I was away. But as always, I hope you all enjoyed this video. Thank you all for tuning in, and I cannot wait to see y'all right back here in the horror mine. Y'all stick around.